there should be no room to hide anymore. That's the reaction from the organization Undoing Tax Abuse after the release of the first part of the state capture report. OUTA has welcomed the document and says it will give new energy to the fight against corruption. Its CEO, Wayne Duvenage, speaks to me now and joins me for that conversation. Wayne, thank you for your time. So I know it's a substantive and lengthy document, but what are the key takeouts for you? Because the first part of this report focuses on SAA, on SARS, the South African Revenue Services, and also on issues of procurement and the protection of whistleblowers. To the extent that you've been able to go through the document, Wayne, what are the key takeouts for you?
Yes, thank you very much. Well, we are still going through it. There's quite a lot there, but from what we can see already, OUTA's case against Duvenage to have it declared as a delinquent director is mentioned in the report, as are the findings by Judge Tolmay from our case that was ruled on in May last year. So we've vindicated about that, and we're very pleased that the Commission has introduced evidence from that case, as well as more. There's a lot against Duvenage, incriminating her in state capture, and as we heard earlier, with regards to Zuma's placement of her into that position, was very clear that she was going to interfere with the operations, as she did, and as we found in our case against her, and that she needs to be held accountable for her actions in that regard.
And your organization, Wayne, comes up quite a number of times, and I want to just jump straight to that. The context, it seems to me, is when executives and board members at SOEs are so frustrated with some of the instructions that they keep getting that they don't agree with, and also find themselves in a corner where they are being targeted. And certainly this was the case at SAA. When they are in that a spot of bother, not knowing what to do, they turn to an organization like yours, OUTA. Yeah. Reading that part must be gratifying to you, but I think also it raises questions of outlets for people to be able to speak out safely, knowing that what they say will be acted upon, as opposed to, you report and the next thing you are in trouble and nothing happens to the person that you are reporting.
Well, exactly, and this is quite it's quite a sad situation, actually, and why organizations like OUTA exist, and we shouldn't have to exist, because people like Cynthia Stimple, Tulium Share, Sylvain Bosk, they tried to use the internal whistleblowing lines. They reported these irregularities to Treasury and others, and nothing happens. So, once we got the information from the whistleblowers internally, then we acted. We stopped the BNP Capital case as well, where there was a boutique finance house that was going to earn 240 million rand for doing nothing, for doing the work that Cynthia Stimple and others were already doing within the Treasury of SAA. So I think what it is highlighting is that, there's people, we have organizations, state-owned entities that are going concerns that were running in a cash-positive situation, being decimated by state capture. And the case on SAA, to point, and Danelle and others, is very, very clear in the Commission as to what was happening, why Duvenage was put into that role. She had no idea of running airlines. These are complex businesses and very competitive. And her position there was really to take advantage of as much procurement and get in the way of the operations so that people could enrich themselves without the need to do so, or without having any reason to earn 1 cent out of the deals that were happening at SAA.
So now that we've established that there was this complex, elaborate scheme of state capture, and basically we've added to the body of knowledge that was already out there, Wayne, what should be the next step, and how soon should that next step come? Should, for instance, President Ramaphosa and others that have recommendations for action in the first part of the report wait until all the 3 volumes of the report are out, or should action start right now?
The action should start right now. In fact, action should have started concurrently while the hearings were taking place and the evidence was being presented. And the NPA and the Special Investigations Unit, Assets Forfeiture Unit, they all were empowered to do so. But as we say in our statement today, now there's no room to hide. And the NPA and the criminal justice system must now start getting into gear, because what this country needs and its citizens need to see is accountability. We've been reading these headlines and seeing so much being exposed for so long, and yet so many people still walk the streets of this country as if they've done nothing wrong. Now the evidence is there. We need to see action. But I'm sad to say that the NPA and a lot of the agencies that have to do this work are still have been decimated by state capture, are still undercapacitated, and are going to find it very difficult. So what we're also asking is that the authorities start apportioning resources, money that is going to be required to beef these institutions up so that they can go and do this work. We need to see people in the dock, we need to hear questions answered, and we need to see people in orange overalls.
I don't have much time, Wayne, but give this your best shot. Two aspects. One of the aspects that strikes me is the wholly inadequate processes towards appointing executives and board members in SOEs. It does seem to me to be a thread that runs through at least the parts that I've read of the report. So I would ask you to say something about what needs to change, because it gets tarnished when we say cadre deployment because it gets politicized. Perhaps if we park that politicized term and say how you appoint executives and board members matters. How do we improve that? And secondly, the issue around whistleblowers.
Well, exactly. On board appointments, there has to be a substantive change. What we see far too often is political meddling and the appointment of people that are either connected and their ulterior motives. We see this very often on all those state-owned entity boards and other boards, by the way, throughout government. So we do need to see a change there. And what we'd like to see is civil society being brought in. I see there is recommendations from the Commission about an independent anti-corruption agency, which we know is being worked on, but he's calling for a lot more independence and a lot more civil society participation and oversight. And I think that's what is needed here now. Civil society oversight as to who makes it onto the board and the right people that are qualified and not jobs for pals in this regard. So that's important. And then secondly, definitely whistleblowers are far too often left out in the cold. They lose their jobs, they become threatened, as we've seen. People's lives are at stake and they are taken out of society. It is absolutely diabolical that we can find ourselves in this situation. They need to be protected. They need to be stopped being abused and harassed by government and the various people in authority when they stand up and expose gross corruption and maladministration within the state. So we would like to see a lot of work done in that regard as well.